Troy's Plan by Laurel and Natalia.
Troy was a 16-year-old studying in sixth form college, living with his mum and three younger siblings. They were not the wealthiest family. In fact, they were quite poor, struggling, and mum dependent on the welfare state and whatever she could earn part-time. Troy's girlfriend was Lucy, whose family was wealthy. She never needed to ask for anything. Living in the expensive, most exclusive area of town, it was clear her lifestyle was quite the opposite of Troy's. Her parents didn't like Troy. They were convinced he was the definition of trouble and would bring Lucy down. One day, Mum was reading a letter. It was a final demand for rent. Troy looked over her shoulder and could see the worry on her face. It was clear they were struggling to pay rent. After this final demand, an eviction note will be issued. They needed money desperately. Lucy had helped Troy with rent in the past, and he didn't want to rely on her again. He decided that he needs to finally step up and be the man of the house. He had applied unsuccessfully for jobs. Even when he did get offered one, the wage he earned was never sufficient. He needed to find another way, a better way. Passing a bridge on Saxon Road, near his house, he always saw Ricky and the lads. Ricky had offered him a way to make money, but he wouldn't say what it was. He had previously said, "Let me know when you want to make real peace." Troy exchanges numbers with Ricky and heads home. He cannot stop thinking about this offer and calls Lucy. She doesn't like the idea because she has a bad feeling about it. His curiosity convinces Lucy and he immediately texts Ricky. Ricky arranges a meeting in an alleyway near their school. Thursday morning, as Troy was approaching Ricky, he couldn't help but wonder what Ricky was handing over to a younger lad. He went over to Ricky and is given a parcel and tells him not to open it. Troy needs to take it to the other side of town to meet someone who's waiting for the delivery. He is told that for every parcel he delivers, 30% of its value is his. Troy finally arrives at his destination and hands over the parcel, but suddenly it drops out of his hand. The customer rushes to pick it up, and that's when Troy realizes what his parcel really contained: drugs. Thankfully, the drugs were in little bags, which protected them from losing value. He received his money and went back to Ricky, not too happy. Troy realizes he wants out. His intention was never to get involved in criminal activity, but when he confronts Ricky, he blackmails him with camera footage of Troy carrying the parcel. There is no way out. Troy cannot believe what he has gotten himself into, but maybe it was worth the cut. There's no way he can tell Lucy about this. She would freak out. He cannot let her find out the truth.
2 years later. Troy is now 18 and a legal adult. Joshua, who is the leader of the gang, is now relying more on Troy and Bradley. Bradley is another one of Joshua's henchmen, who also started working at a similar time to Troy. Troy still works with Ricky, but starts to think about getting a normal job. He talks with Bradley about this, who at first appears understanding, but later on goes to tell Joshua about Troy's plan. Joshua, the boss man, isn't too happy. He's afraid that Troy will spill this group's secrets. He talks to him and makes it clear that if he decides to leave, his girlfriend will pay the price. Troy never expected his girlfriend to be involved in any of this. He wonders, what has he done? Is this how she finds out about Troy's hidden identity? To reinforce his threats, Joshua orders Ricky to pay Lucy a visit. Ricky follows Lucy out of work, and as she turns into a tight road, his mate jumps out in front of her. They confront her and steal her purse, while threatening her with a knife. She is paralyzed with shock. They mention Troy's name, which confuses Lucy, but she dares not to speak. They say, "Tell your boy Troy he is going nowhere. If he wants out, then we're having his girl." He said he wasn't involved with Ricky. He lied to her. As she's lost in her thoughts, the two males move closer. But before they can do anything, they hear a group of people coming, about to walk into this tight road. The two run away and leave Lucy devastated. She cannot believe Troy would lie to her for such a long time, after everything they've been through. Lucy makes her way home, trying to act normal. She can finally contact Troy as her phone was in the purse the two men stole from her. She messages Troy to meet earlier than arranged. It was their anniversary today. Troy was taking Lucy out to a restaurant to celebrate, so Troy agrees. Lucy gets ready and leaves. Despite still being traumatized, she is trying to hide all her emotions. She sees Troy waiting for her on the street. He has a gift for her, a large bouquet of red roses, and a gift bag from a high-end brand. This annoys Lucy even more, as she now knows where this money really comes from. As she approaches Troy, she lets all her feelings and emotions out. Troy is shocked. He never thought that this would be how she would find out, especially as he is trying to get out. Lucy didn't want to hear Troy's excuses, though. A big argument occurs. People on the street looked out of their windows of their executive homes as they heard a confrontation between Lucy and Troy. Troy also finds out how it happened, and as he does, he grabs his phone immediately, calls Ricky. How could his friend do something like this? Lucy rushes away, and Troy tries to follow her, but she doesn't let him. Troy's life has fallen apart. Before he can do anything else, he is approached by a man who turns out to be Lucy's father. He is fuming. He threatens Troy that if he comes this close to his daughter again, he will regret it. Lucy's dad is a lawyer who is quite well known in the area. Troy is speechless. How could he put Lucy in such danger? Lucy's dad said, "If you really love my daughter, you know what to do." Troy couldn't get these words out of his head. What could he do? Troy again and again tries to call Lucy, but receives no answer. He isn't aware that Lucy's phone was stolen. He decides to go to his group, while continuously trying to reach Lucy. As he reaches Saxon Road, he tries to call Lucy one last time, and he hears a unique ringtone. This gets louder and louder as he approaches his group. They stole her phone! Troy tries his best to keep his anger in. How could his friends do that to him, to the person that he loves? As soon as the gang sees Troy, they stare him down. Troy gives no reaction and tries to act normal. He greets everyone as usual until Joshua walks up to him and says, "I told you there was no way out of this lifestyle." Troy looks up to Joshua and nods. Troy proves he is a loyal lieutenant by finding a new supplier who has a much lower price than their current one. This way, Troy gained Joshua's trust again and reassured him of his position in the gang. The supplier is on the other side of town in a deceitful area. This is something the whole gang has to get involved in. Joshua is reluctant at first, but gives in. They are meeting him for a drop-off next week. So next week comes, and Troy and his gang are getting ready to pick up the parcel from the pickup spot. Ricky is the one picking up the parcel, and the rest are just watching from a distance, blending in with the crowd. Before they make it to the spot, Joshua makes Troy help Ricky pick up the parcel. Troy isn't too keen, but he decides to go anyways. The parcel was waiting for them on a bench near the end of the park. It was near the main fountain. The two men look around and pick up the drugs, which were placed in a brown shopping bag. They take a seat and blend in for a bit before deciding to leave, and as they get up, a man walks up to them. Turns out he is an undercover police officer. Before they can react in any way, the people who they thought were regular people turned out to be police officers too. Joshua tried to escape, but Bradley grabs his hand and handcuffs him too. For all this time, Bradley was an undercover police officer. Troy knew this was going to happen though, because he was the one who actually arranged it. He could finally be free, and the police also handcuffed him, but out of nowhere, Lucy's dad walked in and reassures Troy that he will get him out of this. Joshua and Ricky were convicted of numerous crimes and were not getting out of jail anytime soon. Troy also went to jail, but for a much shorter time thanks to Lucy's dad and his will to change. The end.
Thank you for listening.